Yes.
Madam President, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak on a bill being an act to amend the National Insurance Act, Chapter 32, Number 1, to provide for the waiver of penalties and interest, to increase the penalty for the provision of false information, to increase the statutory limitation for the commencement of summary proceedings and other related matters. Madam President, I subscribe to the view that it is always useful when one is undertaking a legislative exercise such as that which we are about today, speaking to the long title which I have just read, to have an appreciation of the history which has brought us here, because it is through that history that we will form an appreciation and have a proper understanding of the focus and purpose behind any legislation. And this amendment and its parent act is no exception. And in understanding the significance and relevance of the historical sequence of events which led to the enactment of the parent act, the National Insurance Act, Chapter 32, Number 1, which this amendment seeks to improve, I am of the view, respectfully and on behalf of the government, that it is appropriate to take some cognizance of that history. So we remind ourselves that as far back as 1958, a small unit of public servants were assembled by the Ministry of Finance and set up in 1966 under the direct supervision of the Parliamentary Secretary to undertake preparatory work for developing a comprehensive system of social security for Trinidad and Tobago. Two major developments resulted from the work of that unit, Madam President. Firstly, a division of pensions and national insurance was established in the ministry in 1968. Secondly, a white paper on social security for Trinidad and Tobago was prepared and circulated for public comment in September 1968. Following on this, a tripartite conference on social security was organized to examine in detail the contents of the white paper and comments associated therewith, as a result of which, at the conclusion of that conference, a new document was published incorporating the combined views of government, business, and labor. So it is relevant as we appreciate the history of the legislation which we are now seeking to amend for its improvement, to appreciate that the tripartite exercise of government, business, and labor is what has contributed towards providing the social security net which this government is committed to and always seeks to improve for the benefit of the citizens of this republic. The next stage in the development of the national insurance system, Madam President, related to the drafting of the relevant legislation. The first step required enactment of registration laws which put an obligation on employers to register themselves. And that is what we are about here today. We are about examining the prospects of increasing the breadth and scope of the registration of employers as permitted by this amendment, and to ensure the registration of workers in their employment. The intention being to provide a social security net for the benefit of the workers of this country who would be required to contribute through compulsory deductions from their insurance, as well as the employers, so that at the end of the day, the people of this country will benefit from the pool that is gathered and invested out of the savings derived from this social security net, the national insurance system. The next step, Madam President, involved the enactment of the principal legislation, providing for the establishment of a national insurance system, deriving income, paying benefits from compulsory contributions paid by employers and employees. The principal instrument, that is to say Act Number 35 of 1971, made provision for the management of the system, its mode of operations, the proclamation of appointed days for bringing the system into operation, and for the introduction of several benefits and other related matters, as today we come once more before this House to seek to improve on that national legislative package. It is immediately and readily appreciated, Madam President, that the introduction of a system of such magnitude directly affected the lives of a substantial percentage of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. And not only was that legislation introduced legislatively, but it was preceded by a significant education system, education campaign, which took place over a period of almost 2 years and involved every member of staff of the government, relevant arms, seminars, lectures, discussions, and informal talks, all geared towards the inclusive involvement of the citizens of this country to appreciate and to value the national insurance scheme that was being brought into being. And law, Madam President, must be pragmatic as well as visionary. And against that historical reality of the legislation, what do the amendments now seek to do? They provide for a waiver of penalties and interest due under Section 39B on interest in respect of any contribution outstanding at June 30th, 2022 by an employer where the contribution is paid during July 1st to December 31st, 2022. The amendments provide an amnesty on penalties and interest on national insurance contributions for the period July to December, which will also allow errant employers to register with the National Insurance Board. This is not, Madam President, about giving a bly to persons who have failed to register. This is about allowing, by an enabling provision in the legislation that is being amended, allowing registration of employers who have not previously registered under the National Insurance Scheme. And what is the benefit that is derived from that? The benefit that is derived from that, the entire package is estimated to earn $161 million for the National Insurance Board in the very first year, and a further $792 million over the next 10 years. The Minister of Finance, in his earlier contributions in the other place, has spoken to that. And today, Senator Dionarine, Independent Senator Dionarine, spoke of that again. We can't lose sight of that substantial benefit, because at the end of the day, what is happening is that the government is passing legislation asking this House to endorse its intention and its efforts to pass legislation to broaden the base, the monetary and financial base of the National Insurance Scheme to benefit the citizens of this country. Not to forgive persons, but to broaden the base, because those employers who are not currently registered, who take advantage of the amnesty that is going to be provided under this legislation when we pass it, will become registrants under the system and able to be regulated into the future by the National Insurance Legislative Scheme, whilst bringing into the treasury of the National Insurance Board the sums of money in the immediate short term. That is a substantial benefit that is going to endure for the people of this country. And it is not a benefit that doesn't come without a burden. So again, it is not forgiving persons for not having previously been registered. What this government is asking this August House to do is to pass amendment legislation to increase the penalties for the provision of false information by Section 63(1), which is currently $2,000 and imprisonment of 6 months, to an increase of $50,000 and imprisonment for 3 years. Similarly, an increase in the statutory limitation for the commencement of summary proceedings within 12 months from the date of the commission of the offense to a period of 3 years. So these are incremental steps that are being taken in the interest of addressing proportionality in the legislative scheme that the government brings to this House, in the public interest of providing benefits to the population of this country, and with the requirement of careful balancing of the interests, which is the hallmark of democratic governance. Additionally, improvements to be effected will strengthen the provisions of the substantive legislation to ensure effective enforcement of the Act, thereby ensuring that the NIB is better able to pursue those who submit false information, documents, or statements. And this would allow for accountability and the robust and comprehensive management of the National Insurance Board by internal processes and the procedures adopted. And then there is the provision that allows the minister to make an order, Madam President, to exercise the making of an order in light of the benefits aforementioned, which enables the efficient and effective operation of the NIB in furtherance of its functionality and the improvement of our national insurance system. In reading, as I tend to do, around the subject, I had the privilege, and I will end on that note, Madam President, I had the privilege to look at the 2020 annual report of the National Insurance Board of this country, which is now chaired by former independent Senator Mrs. Helen Drayton. And it is instructive, one of the highlights that has been provided by Madam President in that, by Madam Chairman, former Senator Drayton, in that statement in her opening remarks. She spoke to the resilience of the National Insurance Board in the face of the pandemic. And she says our response was guided primarily by the core values of resilience and resourcefulness. The strategic plan 2020 to 2024 was reviewed and reworked, taking into consideration the new constraints and threats posed by the pandemic. To this end, in August 2021, we concluded the revision of the plan, which features 5 major strategic themes, namely governance and legal, empowered, engaged, and enabled workforce, customer experience, compliance and collections, and leveraging technology. Madam President, it is my privilege and my pleasure to commend this legislation to this House and wholeheartedly to embrace it on behalf of the government. Thank you very much.
Senator John.